For a culture of peacemaking and reconciliation, the headline, of course, I'm going to focus on reconciliation because that was a key issue in the Park Street circumstance. And I've already mentioned this last year, but when one person can't reconcile with 14 other people, all of whom are either elders or ministers, all 15 of them are elders or ministers, which one is more likely to be the one who has a problem reconciling? And I'll just leave that there. So, as we dig into the biblical basis for why this is something that we think can lead to church growth and revitalization of the church in America, I agree. One of the greatest witnesses that we can have is, Christianity is the most diverse movement in history, and we have differing opinions, and there is conflict, and there's messiness, and there's a need for peacemaking and reconciliation. It's just because we're one under Christ does not mean it's easy, and does not mean that we're all going to agree all the time. And that's one of the greatest witnesses that we can provide, is when it looks like there's no way for us to lean into relationship together, we do so under Christ. And when we have spiritual leaders who are unable to do so, that is the antithesis of the stated goals of the four C's and of Christ himself, as quoted by the four C's. So, and again, we're, as we interpret various wonderful passages that can really change anybody's life, it's the way that the four C's discerned, essentially boiled it down, is we need to be people who live in shalom, peace, wholeness, and there's a wide semantic range, who mirror the image of Christ, the image of our Savior, who, even though we're the ones who messed up relationship, he leaned in, he came down in squalor, discomfort, persecution, with an indifferent religious group, indifferent religious establishment that was not responsive to its people. And he called that out, and he sought to make sure that the church, it was clear that the church was not a worldly establishment, but a kingdom that is his, right? And he showed sacrifice all the way to death, right? Obviously, we know that. But, and so Christ showed us what it means to mirror him in many ways. Essentially boils down to, how can we lean into relationships when it seems like it's not possible, or it seems like it's a lost cause? And so the opposite of what you should do is things like dismissing, disregarding, belittling, going after people after you think you've already won, discarding facts, like Jesus was full of grace and truth, requires following the truth. And then grace requires allowing people to be as they are without too much interference. And so to be almost devoid of truth and devoid of grace is the opposite of mirroring Jesus. So, and again, I'll get into, I've already actually pretty well documented that last year, but we'll get further into the details there, but we'll get in probably this year or early next year. And yeah, so for you as ministers who are out there doing this work of peacemaking and reconciliation in your communities, you deserve people who have demonstrated that actually maybe they can help you grow in how to learn and how to reconcile with folks, or cultivate reconciliation in your congregation, or cultivate more peace in your congregation. Instead, you have a support structure that continues to affirm and refuse to learn from demonstrably unproductive attempts at quashing people's desire to be heard and to be loved in a Christian relationship. So again, I think you deserve better. I know you deserve better. And the question is, how can you signal that you deserve better than what the Four Cs has been providing? Well, I there are multiple ways. That's up to you and your discernment. But I think it's appropriate to do so lovingly and to do so directly and to do so with as much haste as we can, because the what the Four Cs is aiming for is a worthy series of goals and tasks. And there's a big gap between how things are being done and what it's actually going to take to get us to what God has for us as a body.